My name is Babowicz. My project is on force generation in the football throw. What I looked at was how the body produces and transfers energy during the football throw, and how proper mechanics can improve power, accuracy, and help prevent injuries. Sometimes it seems simple, but when you break it down, it's actually one of the most complex movements in all of sports. So starting in the introduction section on the screen, throwing a football uses almost every part of your body. It's not just about arm strength. It starts in your legs, it moves through your hips, core, and finally through your shoulder, arm, and wrist. The whole process is called the kinetic chain. Basically, it's how energy is passed up through the body in a specific order. If one part of the chain fires too early or too late, it throws the whole entire sequence off. You lose force, and you are more likely to get injured. Research shows that efficient throw comes down to how well the hips, trunk, and arm all work together in rhythm. So for this project, I focused on how force is created and transferred during the football throw, and what that means for both performance and safety. So moving into the findings section on the screen, research shows that most of the forces in the throw actually comes from the lower body. When a quarterback drives off their back leg, they can create up to 3 times their body weight in ground reaction force. That push is where everything starts. From there, the hips and trunk rotate towards the target, which turns the straight line push into rotational energy. A big part of this hip-shoulder separation is that moment when your lower body is facing the target, but your upper body is still loaded back. That separation stores elastic energy, which gets released as you rotate through the throw. Then the shoulder, elbow, and wrist take over, turning that stored energy into speed right before the release. Studies using motion analysis found that each joint reaches peak speed in a set order, so pelvis, trunk, shoulders, and elbow, and then finally the wrist. When that order is followed, energy transfers smoothly through the chain, but if the arm moves too soon or the trunk rotates too early, energy gets lost in the shoulder and elbow take extra stress. So basically, that if it all gets thrown off, that can lead to injury or loss of accuracy and power. And now moving into the discussion part of the screen. So all this means is that throwing a football is a bottom up movement. It starts from the ground and moves up through the body. So even tough people often focus on arm strength. The real power comes from the legs and hips. The core and trunk plays a huge role too. This is what connects the lower and upper body. If the trunk rotates at the wrong time, it breaks the chain and you can lose power and accuracy. Good sequencing not only helps you throw harder, but also more accurately. It also helps prevent injuries too. When the body works in the right order, the bigger muscle groups, like the glutes and core, handle most of the workload, which takes pressure off the smaller stabilizers in the shoulder and elbow. That's why quarterbacks use more of their body in the throw, or that's why quarterbacks who use more of their body in the throw tend to stay healthier and perform better long term. So for a training perspective, the takeaway is that quarterbacks and throwing athletes shouldn't just train their arms. They should focus on leg drive, hip rotation, and core stability to keep their kinetic chain strong and efficient. And now moving on to the conclusion section. Wrapping it all up, a powerful football throw comes from the coordination and timing more than anything else. The lower body generates the initial force, the trunk transfers that and amplifies that energy, and the upper body delivers it through the throw. Everything is synced up correctly, or when everything is synced up correctly, the result is more velocity, better accuracy, and less risk of injury. That's why great quarterbacks don't just have strong arms, they have strong legs, good hip rotation, and solid mechanics from start to finish. Coaching and training should really focus on improving timing across the whole body and not just the release or arm motion. So now moving on to the implications for future research. Um, there's still a lot more we could learn about force generation in throwing. Future studies could look at how fatigue training, um, or how fatigue training intensely, or even throwing technique can affect how energy moves throughout the body. Using advanced motion sensors could give real-time feedback during training and help athletes see exactly where they're losing energy. I think it would also be interesting to compare high school, college, and pro quarterbacks to see how experience and physical development can change mechanical efficiency. And finally, more research should go into shoulder and elbow injuries related to poor sequencing, um, and how trainers could design warm-ups, drills, and rehab programs towards that. The more we understand about how force moves throughout the body, the better we can train athletes to perform at their peak while staying healthy. And finally, at the bottom of the screen, you see my sources and where I got all my information. And that's about all I have. Thank you.